Not every entrepreneur wants to pay zero tax in the Cayman Islands or in Dubai. Some entrepreneurs like the idea of starting their business in developed European countries with access to talent, with the ability to work towards a European passport. And today I'm going to share with you 5 countries that are open to serious entrepreneurs. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. This is Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. Now, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, and so I've been following the status of entrepreneur visas around the world even before we started Nomad Capitalist. This was something that I was fascinated by for close to a decade and a half now. And what I've seen over that time is a steady devaluation of entrepreneur visa programs, particularly by developed countries. Sure, you can go start your company in the UAE. You can get a visa, a residence permit for doing that. You can do that in the Caymans. You can do that in a number of other countries, and you can do that pretty efficiently in those countries. But in countries in Europe, for example, particularly Western Europe, English-speaking Europe, in Singapore, for example, you have seen it become more difficult to get approved for an entrepreneur visa. I was in Singapore about a decade ago, and I talked to someone, and they said, if you want to get an entrepass, if you want to start a business here, now's the time to do it because the government's going to start cracking down. They're going to make it a lot harder. And we've seen the Singapores of the world, the Irelands of the world, many other countries that have said, listen, not only do we not want your hawker stalls, which were like the first ones on the list, we don't want hawker stalls, restaurants, that kind of thing. Then it was hospitality. And then in some countries, it became really a lot of different kinds of businesses. Even a business like Nomad Capitalist, that if it were to move to one of those countries, would pay a substantial amount of tax and perhaps hire a number of local people and contribute to the local economy. We may not qualify in some of these countries. So I'm going to walk you through some of the criteria for getting an entrepreneur visa in these highly developed countries and give you a couple different examples. So one country that people often ask about, including some Americans, for example, who want to get out of the US system, they like the idea of having a very similar passport in an English-speaking country, is the United Kingdom, the UK. The UK in recent years has tightened up the rules. They used to have what was called the Tier 1 Entrepreneur Visa. Now there is the Startup and the Innovator Visa. And what do these generally require? Well, you need to be supported by some kind of UK educational institution or have your business supported by some kind of incubator or other organization that's known for supporting entrepreneurs. You need to get their vote of approval. You need to get them involved in your business. And so what the UK standard really is we want businesses that don't exist anywhere else in the market, that are innovative, have the potential for growth, and are really unique. And I've said, and I've talked to people that we work with in the UK and Ireland, what have you, that they are in many cases looking for the next Facebook. They are looking for the next big biotech company. They're looking for companies that have tremendous success. So even if you have a business that might pay £1 million or €1 million in taxes, that may not be enough. They're looking for people they can really point to and say, hey, wow, look at this company. Aren't we glad they came and started up? I've always respected Ireland's tax policy as an example. They are looking for people who are going to come and create innovative jobs and who are going to bring innovation to the country. They have plenty of money, they figure, and the idea is not, let's raise more tax revenue. That's not even a great concern to them, I don't think. What's a concern to the UK and to Ireland, which also has moved in the direction of wanting very, high probability businesses, is that innovation requirement. Now, what Ireland does have is the IIP, where you can invest €1 million in an enterprise investment. Theoretically, that could be your own enterprise investment. Again, the same criteria would apply of what kind of enterprise is this going to be? Is it going to be innovative? Not every business will qualify, although I think that they're probably a bit more flexible in terms of you don't have to be supported by incubators or that kind of thing. You can put forward a business plan, but they are looking for some level of innovation. It is not merely, I thought of some business when I was at the bar one night as a reason to move to Ireland. Now, the IIP for most people is you're just going to invest in someone else's enterprise fund or you're going to invest in REITs. I found most of the enterprise investments that are off the shelf to be somewhat lacking. I almost think if you're not going to do your own enterprise, the charitable donation option perhaps makes the most sense in Ireland. But if you want to start your own enterprise, you have the ability to do that. You're going to have a substantial business plan, and they're going to want to see evidence that you're going to slowly start to be able to hire people in Ireland and to create jobs. And so innovative, high-paying jobs in Ireland, a little bit easier than in the UK. What you have in France is what we call the talent passport. Things are generally a little bit more flexible on mainland Europe, whether you look at a golden visa where you're making an investment in real estate or bonds or any number of different things. France is one that's not talked about by us or really many in the media, and I think that one reason is probably aren't a lot of people who want to start their business in France. What they want you to do is basically be able to contribute 300,000 euros in assets. They want you to own the company. They want you to be able to prove that you're going to create jobs. So I don't think it's as much focused on innovation. It's a matter of, are you going to hire people? Do you have the capital? That's generally the difference between mainland Europe and some of the English-speaking Europe destinations. That said, Ireland has a pretty good tax rate. The UK, obviously, great English-speaking workforce, very well connected. So, those have advantages that France doesn't. France, a lower price point for starting your business. Belgium is one that we haven't talked about in a long time. And Belgium is interesting because Belgium doesn't necessarily require a real investment. What Belgium generally wants you to do is create a company that focuses on Belgium. And it's a little bit different than the other companies, where Ireland is obviously, I guess, like Belgium, a rather small country. Ireland is exporting things. I mean, you just go to Dublin, you walk around, the international companies there are insane. And I love Ireland. I've been going there for over a dozen years at this point. And you always see, you see more and more internationalism. Belgium, perhaps to a different extent, Belgium, of course, is not a big country, but what my experience with Belgium is they really want you to do something that targets people locally, whereas a country like Ireland is saying, hey, be Facebook and push that to the whole world. Belgium is, what are you going to do for us? Which makes it more difficult in terms of how many of us have a business idea for something that would work in Belgium. Now, if your idea is something that perhaps is less innovative, this could work for you because there's really not a strict amount of jobs that you need to create. They do want you to show that you're going to create jobs. They do want you to show that you're going to become profitable and that you're able to pay some tax. It doesn't need to be hugely profitable, but they do want to know, like, hey, at least we're getting a few bucks out of this. We're letting this person come in and live. But the idea needs to be focused on Belgium. And again, that could lend itself to perhaps things that aren't going to be the next Facebook or the next biotech. I don't know that a restaurant so much is going to work, but something that just, does business locally would be of interest. So it's a different perspective in Belgium. Portugal, with their golden visa, what is a little talked about route to get the golden visa is to hire 10 people in Portugal. Now, Portugal has come out with some very, I think, draconian rules on employers in the last couple months. And so, do I want to hire people in Portugal? There was a time when I thought about it. Certainly Portugal is, I think, a good value destination in terms of labor. It's very far west. If you're commuting to the US or Canada, for example, or the Cayman Islands, you've how much further west can you be, pretty much? Do I want to hire 10 people in Portugal? I probably don't right now, but that is an option. Certainly you can do that. You can start your company there and you can work towards getting that golden visa and getting your citizenship. What's interesting about all these countries is, I think that once you're in, as long as you can prove that your business is viable, generally at a 2 or a 3 or 3.5 year period, you can get your residence renewed. And these are countries where I think as long as you are spending the requisite amount of time in the country, which differs, the UK perhaps being the most, Ireland being the next most, France and Belgium and Portugal being a bit more flexible to some degree. If you're spending the time in the country and you're putting in 5 or 6 years in the country, thereabouts, you can probably get these citizenships. What's interesting about these countries is, certainly there are maybe exceptions, but if you meet the criteria in the UK or Ireland, I think you're getting their citizenship. The issue for many nomad capitalists is, from a lifestyle perspective, hey, I don't want to live in the UK for, 9 months a year. But if you're going in there and starting a business and you're working with a team and you're developing something on the ground, and that's the kind of perspective that you want. You don't want to be living nomadically. You want to be living in one place. You're willing to pay some corporate tax. Perhaps you have advantage to a tax incentive. A number of these countries do have tax incentives you can avail yourself of. Even Belgium, in some cases, by the way, interestingly enough, has potential tax incentives. So, France kind of being the worst on the list, you could potentially, get some personal tax incentives and just pay the corporate tax. So this is a path for someone who wants to spend time on the ground towards citizenship. Obviously, some of the best citizenships in the world from a travel document perspective. Obviously, if you become Irish, French, Belgian, or Portuguese, you can go and later decide, hey, listen, I'm going to live in Switzerland, and I'm going to take advantage of their tax incentives and their quality of life. You've got a lot of options. And so if you're looking for these developed countries, If you're looking to be in Western Europe, those are 5 that are open for people who are starting serious businesses, who have capital to commit, who are willing to hire people locally, who are willing to expand their businesses there. If that is something that you're willing to do, listen, for some people, if you're leaving, let's say, the United States, you're paying a lot of taxes, and let's say you're selling your business and you want to start a new business, you know what? You could possibly pay lower taxes in some of these places and stair-step your way down. Get yourself a second passport, contribute to these economies, get yourself a second home that maybe is more familiar to you as a soft landing from a developed country like the US, and then from there, make your next move. Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalist personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.